Hi everyone, my name is Jay Reason. I'm the owner of Static Era Records. I'm so excited to have you all here. I'm excited to have the governor and his team here. I opened in September of 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. It was a challenge at first, but we've made it. We just re-signed our lease for another 3 years, so we're excited to keep it going. We're excited to bring this to the community, and again, just feel so lucky to have all you guys here and have the governor here to talk. So I'm going to hand it over to the mayor. Thank you so much.
Well, it is good to be at Static Records. I think it's time to go on the record. And today we're here with a good friend of Milford, someone who is always there to bring a smile to the residents' faces. 2 weeks ago it was walking down and dressed in green for the St. Patrick's Day Parade, but today it's about something else that makes everybody happy, and that's tax cuts. And that's tax cuts and tax cuts. So in the last 30 years we haven't heard much about the income tax being reduced. That changes, and it changes today for working families and those middle income families. So it's very exciting stuff, and it is my pleasure to introduce the sitting state senator from the 14th district, James Maroney, to tell us a little bit more, because it's one of those partnerships between the legislature and the governor's office that makes it better for all residents of not just Milford but the state of Connecticut. So without further ado, James Maroney.
Thanks, Mayor Blake, and thanks for your leadership. No stranger to tax cuts, as I think there were 6 straight property tax cuts in Milford. Jay, congratulations on making it to your 2nd year in business. I know when I started my business, they always tell you the first 2 years the hardest, but they kind of sucker you in, because then once you get to 2 years, they say, well, really it was the first 5 years that were pretty hard. So, but thanks to the governor, we're looking to try to make that a little easier for you. And thank you, Governor Lamont, for coming down here just across the street. The state has been a great partner with the city of Milford, has invested in our downtown area, which is booming just across the street from where we are. Pretty soon they're going to get building a new apartments with over 100 new municipal parking spots, thanks to an investment years ago by the state of $5 million to the city. Just today we're going to sign a contract thanks to a grant that you had provided to the city of $1.5 million to build Founders Walk behind the library, and we know those investments in downtown areas pay off. But what we're here today to talk about is the economy, and thank you for your stewardship during the pandemic to get the state through, well regarded as one of the leading states in how we handled that. One of the things we know with businesses is they like certainty, and if they're going to invest, they need predictability. And thanks to your leadership, our state is at a point where we now have one of the largest rainy day funds in the country, and we're actually going to increase that from 15% to 18% of the budget, which will provide stability in a severe recession if one were to come. Hopefully, you know, we're not sure what's coming down the road. It could be a soft landing, it could be a moderate recession, but we know whatever it is, we have the resources to weather that without tax increases, without cutting the services that our residents deserve. Further, we're looking at being able to give a tax cut, and I think Mayor Blake alluded to the middle class tax cut. Residents who make less than $50,000 will no longer pay any taxes to the state of Connecticut. But also we're here to tout the business tax cut and restoring the full pass-through entity tax credit, which will aid over 100,000 businesses in the state of Connecticut. So thanks for your stewardship. I don't think I'm handing it off to you. I believe in the program. I'm handing it off to another great partner, State Representative Frank Smith, who represents this part of Milford. He represents the 118th district. So Representative Smith.
Thank you, Senator Maroney, and good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to come to Static Era Records. This is something I was, actually, as much as I'm an admirer of Governor Lamont, when I heard it was going to be at the record store, I said I have to go with the Static Era, because 2 of my children are big vinyl fans, and I don't think they're aware that this place exists, so they will be coming down soon. I can reiterate the things that James said. Obviously, we have a great friend in the governor. There's a lot of things that the state has been partnering with us. As a member of the Transportation Committee, I was very gratified to see orange trucks up on Broad Street this morning. Had to go around them. They're refilling some potholes and doing their seasonal work, but they've been out in force, and I've been very, very encouraged by the type of response we get from the departments. particularly the Department of Transportation, and I have a very good partner up there. We were talking about tax cuts. This is the first time we've had a tax cut of our income tax since it was implemented back in 1990. It's a momentous thing. It owes very much to the governor's great leadership on that. I think it's something that, particularly the people in Milford, James kind of outlined the criteria for it, but it's something that the people of the city appreciate, and they know the governor understands the economic constraints that we're under at this very unknown kind of volatile time in our history, both at the state and the national level. But we're in good hands, and I look forward to working with the governor, with the state government on a lot of things that involve Milford, and am glad to be here at Static Era Records, and will certainly be a customer in the coming days. Thanks very much. I think I introduced
Anybody else? I'll go.
Governor Lamont.
Hey, Frank, and I feel right at home. This is like a walk through time tunnel, isn't it? I love it. Fleetwood Mac, Led Zepp. I'm going to get John Lennon. A little creepy, I think, the Elvis. But gets your attention, that's for sure. We live in a very competitive environment. And I got to tell you that as your governor, DECD and Alexandria, they say, you better call this company. They've just heard from some other state or some other governor, and I give them a call, and they say, we love Connecticut. We've been here for many a year. We did get a call, just thinking, and I say, well, that sounds like a nice state. Can your kids go to some of the best public schools in the country? They're going to have to pay for private education. Our flood insurance is not very expensive. What's it like where you're looking at right now? And then often it gets to taxes. And there, Connecticut has a bit of a perception issue. And they say, gosh, I understand your income tax has gone up, every 4 years for 30 years or something. And I say, well, I want you to think about this. I mean, we have not raised our income tax. And in fact, we are proposing the largest tax cut, arguably, in the history of the state, with a real focus on working families, real focus on the middle class. And I want you to be able to tell those employees that are thinking about joining your company here in Milford or wherever it might be that, we're going to have eliminate the income tax for, families up to about $50,000, $60,000 a year, and a 20% tax cut for people earning, up to about $100,000 a year. And doing everything I can for the middle class to make sure they know this is a state. We want to make it more affordable for each and every one of you, and make sure that you as an employer know that your employees will be recognized, and this is a reason they can come. And as Ben said, you need some certainty. Working families want some certainty, and employers want some certainty. They want to know what the taxes are, not just next year, but for the foreseeable future. And so that's why, short-term rebates and this and that credits are not the same thing as a middle-class tax cut. Probably $400 or $500 million if you also include the pass-through entity, which will support small businesses just like you. And I think that type of certainty, combined with the fact that we've had 5 balanced budgets in a row, combined with the fact, like James said, we've got $3.5 billion in our rainy day fund. Many thanks to the legislature for making that happen. Gives people some confidence and some certainty that if this recession comes along, Connecticut's better positioned than just about any other state in the country. And part of that, part of our planning, part of the fact that thanks to the legislature, we put those guardrails in place for another 10 years means that we can afford this tax cut, a permanent tax cut, a sustainable tax cut, a tax cut you can count on, a tax cut that's going to mean about $50 a month for each and every one of you extra that you can use maybe to buy a John Lennon record right here in Milford. So I'm really hoping that the legislature can, stand up and get this done. It does mean that you also have to be careful about our spending. I mean, there's an awful lot of requests on the table, probably $1 billion. It's worth noting that we have made some of the largest investments in the history of the state in terms of daycare, an extra $150 million for education. UConn is up about 40% over the last 4 years. Mental health coming out of COVID, what that meant for folks. So we're making the investments in people that we need to keep our faith with folks, and we can do that if we keep within our means and also do the largest tax cut in the history of the state. That combined with what Ben Blake's been able to do to reduce the mill rate over 5 of the last 6 or 7 years, showing that we can make a difference for each and every one of you. God bless Connecticut, and God bless the Huskies.
Any on-topic questions for folks?
Maybe more specific about the business entity tax. I mean, maybe Senator Maroney or someone or yourself, because I know that's something that they were talking, wasn't it sunset? It was supposed to go away, and how that, and maybe you could even comment about how that may help you.
I'll start. We're bringing the pass-through entity tax. Connecticut was one of the first states in the country to do that. Really primarily supports small businesses, LLCs in particular. As you maybe know, when 6 or 7 years ago they capped state and local tax deductions, including property tax, at $10,000. That was a big tax increase for a lot of folks. So with the LLC, we're allowing you to pay out of the LLC, and we'll credit you. That means it's still deductible for small businesses and limited liability corporations. It represents tens of millions of dollars of savings for our small businesses.
How much individually would be depending on how much, there are a lot of variables there, right? How much
There are a lot of variables, yeah.
Would that help you? I mean, could you,
Anything that helps us buy more records.
Could you please, come to the
are you an
microphone.
LLC?
Yeah, anything that helps us buy more records is awesome. So yeah, we're super grateful.
We always hear that Connecticut is a tough state to do business in. The taxes are high. It's not business friendly.
I have not had that resistance. I've got to admit, it was great to open a business in Milford. As somebody who grew up in this town and bring something different, it was awesome. Like I said, we were just re-signed for another 3 years. We're excited. We're excited to be in Connecticut. Excited to bring something a little bit different to our area and show that there's more than just bars and restaurants down here. There's a whole lifestyle. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And yeah, they've made it. It hasn't been hard. I know that maybe people have heard otherwise, but we've had a very easy experience, and it's been awesome.
Is it your hope that if it's a little more affordable for businesses that, coming out of this pandemic, that they might open up businesses or expand if they're not paying as much in taxes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I wish for the best for everybody. That's the only thing I could really say. I think for us, as long as we can keep buying records and bring people in, that's the best thing for us. But yeah, I mean, I hope good luck for everybody, to be honest. It's tough no matter what, no matter where you are. That's the period. But we feel really lucky to be in this town, and we've gotten such great support from our town. We're part of the Downtown Milford Business Association. So yeah, we've not had any of those problems.
Do you think the governor's tax plan would help you out?
That's a question above my head, guys. I'm just like a music guy. Like I said, I have an accountant who handles all that stuff. But anything that makes it easier for us to buy records, and like I said, we've had no problems with that. The town has been super supportive. We are so happy to be here. My dad is a lifelong Democrat. He's voted the whole time he's worked for the governors. So this is, yeah, I'm excited. I don't really have a good answer for that. I'm sorry. I'm just excited to have you guys here, and anything that helps us get more records is awesome for us.
Governor, a question for you. I'm sure you've heard that Speaker Ritter is floating this idea of sunsetting the tax cut over 2 to 5 years from now, in case there is the recession that you talked about. What do you think about that?
I think, like Ben and James said, people want some certainty. They want to have a sense of where this state is going, what they can count on, not just for the next year or two, not just a little quickie tax rebate. We'll see what happens in a couple years. That's the type of gimmick that doesn't really help me attract and recruit businesses, incent you to expand right here in the state of Connecticut, get you to say, hey, I want to do another 3 years on my lease here. People like to budget out 5 years. I want to get a sense of where they're going. So short term doesn't help.
Have you had discussions with them about that idea? I mean, if they come to you with that idea and ask what you thought?
I've heard just some of the talk about that. I said, I don't think it's appropriate. We know what we're doing. We've got the budget in place. We've balanced it for 5 years. If we can keep within our guardrails, this is something we can sustain not just for the next few years, but for the foreseeable future in
So-
Connecticut.
So if they send you a budget that sunsets this after, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, is that a non-starter for you then?
I don't like it. I don't think it gets the job done. Doesn't get the job for middle-class families.
How concerned are you about the recession? Both of you mentioned that here this morning.
Look, I'm concerned. Every time you raise interest rates as quickly as the Fed has done, that's a concern. We're talking to the banks quite a bit because higher interest rates impacts the value of, their loans as well. So we're taking a look at that. A lot of people talk about a soft landing. You've heard that phrase. We got Larry Summers coming to the state in a while. He famously said, a soft landing is like a second marriage, the triumph of hope over experience. So I just soon err on the side of caution, and we've been cautious. We've husbanded our resources.
Are Connecticut banks concerned? You said you've been talking with banks.
You just look at Silicon Valley Bank and the other guys. I asked them just a little bit about how are your deposits invested? Are you matching your short, your long-term obligations? They tell me they've been better capitalized than probably ever before in history. So we're continuing to follow up on that to give people confidence that our Connecticut banks are solid.
Can you get a little more specific about middle-class tax cut? What's the upper limit, and who is this really going to impact households of what level income?
So we'll be essentially eliminating the income tax for families up to about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. It would be a 20% tax cut for families earning up to $100,000 a year. It'd be a 6% tax cut for families earning up to $150,000 a year. So it's progressive in that sense.
Okay. How high does it go?
Well, we'll be negotiating that or talking about that with the legislature. I like to be able to tell a business that's thinking about moving here or expanding here, we got a tax cut. Even for folks in the upper management, there's going to be a tax cut for you as well. Probably not that much, but just directionally what a difference that makes. But probably we'll get some feedback from the legislature and work it through.
Do you expect any pushback at all?
I
Who
know.
doesn't want a tax cut? Senator Maroney, want to comment on that? Do you expect
Yeah.
for this to just go with flying colors and everyone's happy on board?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
This is kind of wishing it into existence. Yeah. I think that it's a legislative process,
Yeah.
and that's what the process is for, to have everyone's voice be heard. So I'm fairly confident that because of the shape we're in, there will be some form of a tax cut. How it looks still remains to be seen.
Where is it now in the process? A lot of the committees are wrapping up their work this week. Where are all these tax cuts and what has to happen?
Right. So right now, most of the committees are wrapping up this week. I believe Judiciary Committee wraps up, and then it goes to the appropriations for the spending and the finance. So those committees will be doing their work, and they wrap up at the end of April. So about a month before they'll wrap up their work.
Senator, what are you hearing from lawmakers about making this permanent versus maybe just for a couple years and then revisiting the idea?
Yeah, and right now I've been wrapped up in my committee work, and so I've been focused on the General Law Committee that I co-chair and some of those other committees. So it's mainly been through the media that I've read that. I haven't had, to be honest, conversations with anyone about that.
Thank you, everyone.
Can we do off topic?
Yeah, sure. You want to do them here?
If you
Is
could
this
give
good?
this to the governor, he'd really like this.
Whatever you would like.
It's a desk.
I know. Whatever you'd like.
Cannot give anything to
Ben Blake said, buy vinyl records. You know why? It's a sound investment. Ha ha.
No, you can't. Nobody gets it. It's too complicated.
That's good. It was
I
good.
can put a spin on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I want to ask you a sobering comment or a conversation, and that is Representative Coney. I know she's getting help, but this was the second time that she's been in the spotlight. And at a time when the state is facing a crisis with alcohol-related fatalities on our roads, we're the third in the country. Your administration spending $20 million on wrong-way drivers. Should she come back to the legislature?
I think so. The point is, she's taking her health seriously, and getting treatment as necessary, and doing the right thing. I'll leave the rest of it up to the legislature. But, more broadly, people just got to be a lot more careful. And, coming out of COVID, we got more speeding, more wrong-way drivers. And I can't legislate common sense. I can try and reduce the alcohol, content where you're at risk and legal jeopardy. But at the end of the day, I just really need friends to look out for friends and say, not today. Take those keys away.
Governor, there's a press conference this afternoon and a hearing tomorrow about a student loan reimbursement bill. I think it's a little similar to what President Biden has been pitching, but this would be, I think, limited to certain professions like teaching and nursing. I don't know, where do you stand on that, given that there has been a lot of pushback to the president's proposal to forgive people's loans?
Well, we'll see what happens in Washington, John, but here in Connecticut, we've done it very differently. We have said you get a 25-50% tax credit if you start paying down an employee's student loan. So that means you have a reason when you graduate from school here in Connecticut to work for a Connecticut company has an incentive to keep you here. And I'd love to see the legislature continue to expand on that program, because I think it's a winner for the students and I think it's a winner for the employers.
So this bill would go further and would use state money to pay people's student loans back in certain industries. Should we go that far?
I'm not sure about that. I sort of like the way we're doing it. I like the fact that we are saying if you want to be a nurse, you can do it in a lot less time, so you accumulate less debt. We are providing some stipends and support to help people, with their tuition payments. Before I obligate the taxpayers, I don't even know what the obligation would be.
What about medical debt? I know that was part of your plan to help.
Yeah, medical debt's a little different to me in the sense that I didn't accumulate this by choice. I got sick and got hit by perhaps some bill that we didn't anticipate. And and medical debt is probably the greatest cause of bankruptcy in our state and in our country. And it hangs like a dark cloud over, a family that has this debt. And they have a hard time digging out from under. And frankly, the hospitals sit around it on their balance sheet for ages, and not a lot of it gets collected. So we're cleaning up those balance sheets, taking that black cloud, taking that medical debt off your shoulders. And I think we can probably forgive about $2 billion in debt with a $20 million investment. We'd be the first state to do this statewide.
Oh, right, that's right. You contract out with another.
It's a not-for-profit that does this, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.